Hello and welcome to another episode of the Duct Tape Marketing Podcast. This is John Jantsch. My guest today is JP Maroney. He's a seasoned business strategist and fractional chief marketing officer, fractional CMO. With over 3 decades of entrepreneurial experience, he's known for his strategic prowess serving clients like Wells Fargo and Century21, as well as growing companies, often as a fractional CMO or chief strategic officer, or CSO, I guess we'd call that, to numerous ventures. So, JP, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you, sir. Appreciate the invitation.
So, I've been talking about this topic of a fractional CMO, frankly, for 10 years, but I've really leaned into it the last couple of years because I think the market's caught up. But I'd just love to hear from you. I'm going to do a few shows on this topic. If somebody asked you, what's a fractional CMO? How would you describe that in your words?
Well, I think that other business models or other business categories have paved the way with fractional ownership. So jet ownership, fractional, all sorts of things. So yachts and housing and everything else. So that kind of gives people the general idea, but it's essentially, in fact, I put a header on my LinkedIn sometime back that said, rent my marketing mind. And I basically look at it like that. I've done a lot of consulting over the years, done a lot of business coaching over the years. I've built my own companies. But in this particular model, you're giving someone a very quantified access to your time and expertise at a quantified rate. And they can correlate that in some ways to a budget. They can also look at how that relates to where they're trying to take their company.
Yeah.
One of the benefits, I'm sure we'll get into this, but one of the benefits for businesses, for fractional professionals, is that a company either may not have the budget or they may not have the demand for a full-time person. And so when you bring a high-level executive like yourself or myself on, if you try to do it for an employee, the load and the drag that's on top of just the salary is so substantial, and this gives them a budget-friendly way, sort of, to get into that.
Yeah, I looked at recent survey on salary.com, and a chief marketing officer somewhere in the range of 250 to 360 thousand. Um, so, so yeah, I mean, I think you're absolutely right. In some cases, it's budget, so it's a way to get some strategic thinking at a fraction of the cost. But I think the bigger point, like you said, is what's a full-time CMO going to do at an organization that because they're not writing ads theoretically, they're not they're not designing campaigns or executing campaigns necessarily. So you have to have a pretty significant, almost marketing department probably to afford a full-time CMO, I would think.
Either have your own existing, or that CMO needs to bring a team with them because they're not going to get in the trenches and do, and they shouldn't, by the way. If you're paying a guy, like I base my CMO rates on roughly $500,000, so like 40 grand a month kind of thing. Um, and so a quarter share, say $10,000 a month or whatever. But you don't want a guy that you're spending that kind of money on doing work that could be hired out for 20, 50, 100, even $150 an hour.
Yeah. So one of the things that I think is a challenge I think a lot of people jump, they've got CMO experience, they jump out and say, oh, I can be a fractional CMO. One of the challenges is, how do you keep it from literally selling your time? Or maybe that's it for you. I mean, is there a way to scale a business model like that, or is it just a way to be highly paid for your time?
Yeah, it's not my preferred. This kind of came about as demand. People were asking about it, and I said, And before I actually offered this, my oldest daughter, who is in her early 20s, well, now mid 20s, I guess, she'd graduated from college and a business degree and very marketing minded, had actually started her own social media marketing company before getting out of college. But I recommended that she do this, and she offered herself as a fractional marketing director for some companies. And I got a chance to see it work, and I also got a chance to see some of the holes in it, because there are some pitfalls with the model. But yeah, I like you, I've coached and advised a lot of other consultants and coaches and stuff over the years. And I've always said to them, I never want the meter running. Like I don't
Yeah, right,
want to
right, right.
correlate my time to dollars per hour. And so there is a little bit of a trap of doing that with uh, with CMO work or fractional CXO. So any fractional executive, there's
Yeah,
a little bit of a trap of doing that. I always tell people, I say, look, you're buying approximately a quarter or a half or whatever of my time, but we're not going to have a clock running. And
yeah,
that's both in your favor and in my favor. There are
right.
going to be times when the demand might be higher, and there's no way that you could get me for a half a day for that amount of money a month. So you're going to win. And then there's other times when maybe that week I have less hours in it,
Mhm.
but I always try to base, I don't think, it goes back to the old thing, people buy results, not features or whatever, benefits, not features. I don't think that most founders or entrepreneurs who are mostly who hire people like us, you and I as CMOs, fractional CMOs, I don't think most of them want to judge it by dollars. So you just have to frame an hours. You have to frame it correctly in the
Yeah,
beginning.
yeah.
And if you do that, in most cases, it works out okay.
Yeah, I tell you the trap I've seen a lot of people fall into is it's all, totally undefined. Yeah, you get a fourth of my time, but what does that mean? It's like I'm going to be in every staff meeting. I'm going to be on this. I'm going to be in that. And I think that one of the real keys is we talk about scope in projects, right? In engagements. Well, I think there's no difference in this. I mean, there needs to be a defined scope. This is what I'm going to do. This is what you're going to get, type of thing. And I think that's the problem we've tried to solve for many years. We license our fractional CMO system, which kind of teaches people how to do scope. Is there a certain type of market you or client that you target, or is it really been more that you organically attract a client, and you decide if that type of arrangement works for them?
Yeah, it's weird. I have not proactively marketed my fractional CMO services, and I'm booked solid. So it's more of an attraction thing. I'm a big believer in um, providing content up front. There's a
True.
guy out there, you probably know Frank, but Frank Kern, maybe he did or
Sure.
didn't coin a phrase, results in advance, but I love
Yeah.
that phrase.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
used it and I believe in that. I believe that in business and in life, the more you give, the more you
Sure.
get, but you got to give before you get. That's law. And so um, I've always just given value in advance, and it never fails to come back to me. I tell people all the time, it's funny, and I want to answer your question about certain types of businesses, but I find that a lot of consultants or even fractional CMOs, let's say people that were in the employment space and now they've gone out and hung out a shingle as a fractional CMO, they're afraid of giving away the goods,
Right.
like there's some
Right.
sort of secret deal or whatever. And I have told many coaches, consultants, CMOs, people that are in advisory positions, that all you have to sell and give is your knowledge. So that's your currency to buy your way into a
Yeah.
relationship. It's not the secret sauce, so to speak. So I'm a big believer that you give. And so because of that, I have a lot of people that send people to me and they'll say, hey, can you hop on a call and help this guy? And I'll hop on and I've generally the old strategy call thing. It's like a way has unfortunately become a way to manipulate people into buying from you in some business models. But I believe in the pure version of a strategy call, which is let's get on a call. Let me lay it out. Let me ask you a lot of questions. Let me
Right.
lay it out for you how I think it should be done. And then if you want me to help you accomplish that, great. If you don't, fine. No harm, no foul. So as a result, I attract a lot of different types of businesses. But I think that's a positive, not a negative.
Well,
In the 30
I do.
plus years,
Yeah.
33 years or so that I've been building companies and helping other entrepreneurs build companies, I have found that the greatest impact can often be realized from bringing ideas and strategy from other industries into an industry where it hasn't been historically practiced. And it has a great impact because you're sort of a purple cow, or you're sort of like
Yeah.
doing things differently. And, I think a really brilliant guy that wrote a book called Duct Tape Marketing might have written about that in the past.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate that. But yeah, I've said that all along because the current advice, I mean, take you 5 minutes to find 15 people saying niche, 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 right? And there are some pros to that, except that it's boring as all get out, right? I think it's a lot more fun to work with, first and foremost, people that you enjoy, regardless of the industry, rather than saying, I'm just going to work with dentists. No offense, Dennis.
No, I got you. I just poor Dennis. Just attracted a group. It's a small chain of cinemas, movie cinemas, and I've been on a couple of calls with them now, and I did what I said I do. I just laid it out. I did a lot of research. I actually listened to a bunch of podcasts and things from the industry, read a bunch of articles and things, and then I took that and combined that to sort of some of my go-to strategies. You and I both know and have a lot of respect for Jay Abraham.
Sure.
And one of the things Jay's done over the years is, what he calls host beneficiary or host parasite, piggyback
Yeah.
marketing.
Yep.
All of us
Yep.
have our version of that, but that's one of the, just as an example, that's one of my go-tos that I look at and I say, okay, would this work in this industry? How it,
Yeah. Yeah.
so it's, I think it, like you said, it gets boring if you do the same things over and over again, same industries over and over again. It
Yeah.
can definitely get boring for people that are sort of creative like us and like a challenge.
Yeah. So that idea of strategic marketing alliances, same thing. I try to look at that for everybody that we work with, particularly professional services. Um, I think people really underestimate the leverage, that's available from that approach, and they just, they want to make the phone ring, and yet this person over here might have 500 prospects they could introduce you to. So, really, really potent approach.
Yeah, I've done a couple of programs on that, and I've got a book coming out on that whole alliance idea
Nice.
because it's so powerful. And in fact, we're building a business model. I just got off the phone with my partner, and we're building a business model across the country, doing that in the home services industry. But
Ah,
it is so powerful, and it's definitely overlooked, and it's not
yeah.
used in very many industries. So huge, big, big, big believer in it.
So theoretically, somebody who wants a fractional CMO is interested in strategy. I say theoretically, but have you seen any change in the market? I mean, I've been doing this a long time. Used to say the word strategy to a business owner, and they're like, I don't need that. I just need the phone to ring, right? It feels like the last 4 or 5 years, people have, and I, blame it on the pandemic because it's so easy. It feels like a lot of businesses really got caught, off guard, and didn't have any kind of business strategy. And do you see at least more of a hunger for that, or at least an appreciation for it?
Maybe. If I'm
For
being
those of you
honest,
that are not watching
maybe.
the video, it took JP a long time to think about that one.
Yeah, well, I wanted to give you an authentic answer. So
Yes.
maybe. But here's the deal. Um, I don't know very many entrepreneurs or founders that wake up in the morning and say, what I really need is more strategy in my life.
Zero.
Any more than they wake up and say, what I really need is some tactics like Facebook ads or whatever.
Yeah.
That's not
Right.
what they're looking for. They're looking for an outcome. So they're looking for, how can I make enough money to be able to ultimately get off the treadmill and
Right.
sell this business, or get off the treadmill and let somebody else manage my people, or whatever. So their version of it is so different. I find, ironically, and I imagine you have too, ironically, that marketers, and that includes fractional CMOs, really suck at marketing and selling their own services.
The hottest
So,
business going is lead generation for agencies.
yeah, exactly right. And so my point to that is that if you're selling these services, you have to learn to frame things properly. You and
Right.
I know good marketing enters the conversation going on in the mind of the prospect. You can't sell them what you want to sell them or what you produce or what services. You have to sell them the result that they're already seeking. And
Yep.
I've used this phrase, I didn't make it up, but the idea is sell them what they want and give them what they need. So they need
Sure.
strategy, but I don't lead with, what I'm going to do, Bob, is help you get some more strategy.
Right.
Um, so I talk to them and I say, what is it that you're trying to accomplish in the business? I ask them the right questions. And then I say, look, the way for us to accomplish that is to put together a blueprint or a plan or whatever. And here's how I would go about that. And so I speak in terms of results and outcomes, and I operate that way. And it just so happens that my toolbox contains strategy.
Yep. Absolutely. Nobody wants what we sell; they want their problem solved. Do you prefer long term engagements, short term engagements, or is it really everyone's different, or do you have a type that you really try to go after?
Well, I say this a lot, so it's kind of ingrained and wake up at 3 in the morning probably and say it. I'll say to a client, look, I like 90-day minimum 90-day
Hmm.
engagement
Hmm.
because it's
Hmm.
long enough for us to create some results, but it's short enough that we won't get sick of each other if we decide that this shouldn't be long term. So I like a 90-day as a minimum, and so I'll usually go 96 months and 1 year. You know, that's it. Just again depends on the circumstances and the need. Um, but the business changes. They're going to run into things. It'll pivot. I
Yep.
also find that hey, this is the dirty side of the business of any kind of consulting or advisory work is that for the first 60 to 90 days you are a freaking genius. They can't believe all this amazing stuff. 6 to 12 month range, they're wondering, man, why do I even need this person? Because I know this stuff. I
Yeah.
already do it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
there
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
there is that measure, and that's why I'm not a big, like long term. The things I like to do is I really prefer, and I do this in probably 80 to 90% of my engagements now is I take a fee plus a piece of the business.
Mhm.
And that keeps me engaged for the long term. And it also puts me on the same side of the table as them instead of the opposite side of
Yeah.
the table.
Yeah.
I
It's
prefer that.
s-
And it's
certainly a
a
growing
I like
model.
the
Yeah.
upside. Yeah, I like the upside.
Do um they're again thinking about the fractional CMOs I've spoken with. In some cases, they also will provide implementation, even if it's just third party, delegation. But another model is we'll help you build a team. Another model is we'll manage the team that you have. Is there? Or do you have instances where you've maybe done all of those, and what maybe are the pitfalls or upside to those different approaches?
This doesn't just go to fractional CMO work. This also goes to being a business advisor or advisory board member or even a
Hmm.
consultant. So over the years, historically, I've probably done all of that.
Right.
Um, the most challenging to me is um, coming in where there's an existing team
Yeah.
because I got to try to re indoctrinate people to my way of thinking. And that's
Not to
hard
mention there might be
sometimes.
some initial sort of resistance period, right? Because it's like, wait, we got this. Why are they
A
bringing this guy in,
hundred
right?
percent, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
There's definitely, I was on a call with a prospective client about 60 days ago, and you could tell that the person who's responsible not for all the marketing but for the social media was in a very defensive posture,
Right.
and she was really worried about her job because I mean, when I come in, I ask the hard questions.
Yeah.
In some cases, as I said, I'm taking a piece of the business, but in all cases, I act as if I own that company. And so I asked really hard questions that I would ask if I was the one writing the checks every day. So when I do that, it makes it's like shining a flashlight in an abandoned house. You never know
Yeah,
what you're gonna
yeah.
find,
Well,
and
social
people get
social media,
nervous.
of course,
And
is it's like, what's our ROI on that, right? It's like,
right, like in that example, they were doing nothing for attribution. They were doing nothing to
Mm,
track links. They were doing nothing to measure results.
yeah,
And I told them, I said, this old I forget who it was that said half the money I spend on advertising is wasted. I just can't figure out which half. I said the day the internet popped up
right,
and you had links, those days are over.
right.
Even phone calls are trackable with phone tracking numbers for
Yep,
$1 a month. You can get another
yep,
number on Twilio and
yep,
track every call that comes from every source, every flyer, every postcard, every ad, or whatever. So I don't buy this. Well, we believe it's working. We think it's working. We hope it's working. And
yeah,
that makes a lot of people nervous.
yeah. So, JP, I appreciate you taking a moment to stop by the show and talk about this interesting and growing topic. You want to invite people where they might find out more about your work or connect with you in some way?
Yeah, they can connect with me on LinkedIn. That's where you and I were talking most
Yeah,
recently. I'm JP Maroney, JP Maroney everywhere. And I'm at JP Maroney on almost every platform where it has that kind of a handle. So YouTube, it's at JP Maroney. I have a
okay.
lot of content there. And then go to jpmaroney.com and it has like a little link tree type of jumping off point
Gotcha,
for them too.
gotcha. Awesome.
So
Well, I appreciate you taking a few moments. I know you told me you're in an Airbnb, so hopefully you're doing something fun. But um, and hopefully we'll run into you one of these days out there on the road.
fantastic, John. Look forward to meeting you in person someday. Take care.